Welcome to the Warframe Potato Profile, featuring Zephyr, the Flappy, the chicken. The useless piece of garbage that is taking up one too many slots in my inventory, and is the single worst frame in the whole game. I'm not even sure I even need to state this as an opinion, because at this point, I think it's an actual mathematical fact. Talk to any genius.
When I try to explain how a black hole has such an imaginable pull, that everything in the universe, even light, cannot escape it, I often say, it's like Zephyr. It sucks that hard.
So, if you like Zephyr, if you have pictures of her posted up all around your ship, if you somehow unironically main Zephyr, then uninstall Warframe. Because maining in Warframe is lame, and you should choose a frame that best adapts to a situation that also helps your team, rather than just stick with the same frame constantly. Then realize that you are free to continue doing so. Just realize that loving a frame and the frame being technically good within the play space and meta of the game are two completely different things. I know, I mained Hydroid for a time. Don't judge me. So let's start. Zephyr is a pretty average Warframe, at max level sitting at 450 base health and shields, 15 armor, 150 power, and a base movement speed of 1.15. So pretty squishy, but still tankier than Nova. Zephyr's design is based with a bird theme in mind. She has a beak, feathers, a tail, a giant, thick, massive second tail, and her passive emphasizes this, giving her increased mobility in the air and making her fall back down to Earth more slowly. This passive is okay. It fits with the frame's original idea of being a sort of air-based frame and can give some people who are bad at parkour some added mobility. Zephyr's first ability is Tailwind. The ability costs 25 energy and allows Zephyr to jump up into the air if she is on the ground. At max level, she jumps up 12.5 meters and deals 250 impact damage to enemies within 7 meters of her, dealing a guaranteed knockdown proc. If activated in the air, Zephyr instead boosts towards whatever the reticle is pointing at, dealing 250 slash damage to enemies within 2 meters. Launch height is affected by power duration, the ability's damage range is affected by power range, and the damage is affected by power strength. So this is meant to be Zephyr's bread and butter, which allows you, when used with her passive, to soar through the air like a majestic eagle. And it sucks. Of course it does. This is Zephyr we are talking about. Come on, get your head out of your butt and start paying attention. I did preface the whole video with this at the start. The ability isn't great for attacking, and since it doesn't scale with enemies or your weapons, its damage is going to fall off into obscurity by the late game. The stun could be useful, but that only goes off when you're initially jumping into the air, meaning to use it, you need to not be in the air. The whole idea behind the frame. So you're going to be using this ability to mostly just help keep yourself airborne. But don't worry, it can't even do that right. You see, the problem with Zephyr's whole flying philosophy is it doesn't account for something called ceilings. Most levels have them, and even outside levels have invisible ones at some point, meaning that you can never get high enough for that half gravity of yours to really come in handy, because even with it, after a few seconds, you're going to be closing in on the ground fast, and be forced to use Tailwind to get back up into the air again. Still, this wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for the fact that sometimes, if you touch a ceiling, it seems to double your gravity, making you drop like a rock faster than a duck in Duck Hunt. So the first argument I'm going to hear is, well, you're just not pro enough to play this frame. I can stay airborne and still headshot every enemy I see with my Ignis. And to you I say, nice job. That takes some real skill. But it doesn't make the ability good. Heck, I'll take back that's not good for the sake of argument. Let's ignore that and just say that it's not fun. I don't want to have to be constantly aiming and pressing 1 just to stay in the air so I can take a few pot shots. That's not flying.
That was falling with style.
Zephyr's second ability is Dive Bomb. This ability costs 25 energy and can be only used in the air, and causes her to dive back to Earth, dealing 250 impact damage, scaling based on how high you were when activating the ability, scaling up to 750 damage, and triggering a knockdown in a 7-meter radius at max level. Wait! Hold on. Is this the second knockdown-based attack? Oh, okay, sorry. Let me finish this. Range of the blast is affected by power range, and minimum damage and speed is affected by power strength. Okay, this is a second attack where the only positive effect is that it has a knockdown. The damage isn't even great again, though at least it's a little better since its minimum damage is increased by your height when you started the attack. But since power strength only increases the minimum damage, this ultimately means the damage is still going to be obsolete by late game. Also, why does she even need this ability? You can knock everyone down by jumping up with your first ability. I guess they realized you wouldn't be using that half of the ability much, so they gave you a backup. I guess instead of replacing the knockdown from your first ability, you could use them both to pogo around, knocking enemies down as you went. But then Zephyr needs to be redesigned to look like a giant spring. Or a tiger. Get it? A tiger? Because Tigger is a tiger, but bounces around for some reason that never made sense to me as a kid, but... Do people even remember Tigger? Gosh, I'm getting old. Dive Bomb's augment is Dive Bomb Vortex, which at max level pulls in enemies within 12 meters of the point of impact. This lets you use Zephyr to group enemies into tight clusters so they can be hit more easily by you and your teammates, at least until the knockdown proc wears off. I thought this augment was useless originally, but it's okay, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. It gives her some support functionality at least, but it doesn't really blend with any of her other powers well enough to be an essential tool in her kit. Zephyr's third ability is Turbulence. It costs 75 energy and puts a shield around her that alters the trajectory of incoming bullets and projectiles 6 meters around her, for up to 20 seconds. This shield cannot stop melee, AoE, and stats effects. Duration is affected by power duration, and the size of the shield is increased by power range. This ability is okay, and it's one of the ones I hear people mention first when they try to defend Zephyr. The shield makes the squishy Zephyr pretty tanky as it blocks most attacks aimed at her, and with the power range max, you can even stand on top of points or near allies to block bullets from hitting them too. It's a solid shield, and probably the only worthwhile ability on Zephyr, but a single ability does not a frame make. Turbulence's augment is Jetstream, and grants 40% movement speed and 100% projectile speed to Zephyr and her allies whenever the shield is used. Another augment that at least I thought was terrible, but realized that it was once again okay. Kind of. It adds some versatility to Zephyr as a support frame, making her a poor man's Volt with the speed boost. The projectile speed boost can be used to great effect in certain situations, but most of the time people are just going to completely ignore that you even used it. Zephyr's fourth skill is Tornado. This ability costs 100 energy, after which Zephyr spawns at max level 4 tornadoes within 25 meters. They move independently, dealing 120 magnetic damage per second to affected enemies. The tornado lasts for 20 seconds, and can ragdoll and toss away enemies. It can also be shot by weapons to change the element of the tornado to the element of the weapon it was hit with, in a set hierarchy, where the tornado can only shift to elements higher on the totem pole, which goes as follows. Corrosive is at the top, followed by Viral, Magnetic, Gas, Radiation, Blast, Toxin, Electricity, Cold, and Heat is at the bottom. So if a tornado is hit with Viral, it can't ever be made to do heat damage after that. Tornado's duration is affected by power duration, its cast area is affected by power range, and its damage is increased by power strength. Tornado is an interesting ability, as it lets you customize the damage to whatever you're facing at the time, and gives Zephyr yet another bit of adaptability. At this point, she may as well be the new Equinox. Heyo! But, no. No, there's still a reason Equinox ranks higher than Zephyr, unfortunately. But we will save that for another video. The problem with Tornado is that it just doesn't deal enough damage, making it as threatening as Zephyr's second tail by the end of the game. But it's not about the damage, it's about the crowd control. No, that sucks still. So sit down and let me finish. Zephyr's Tornado sucks at crowd control. Yes, they can stop enemies from shooting. Yes, it does damage. But like Hydroid's tentacles, it's not worth it. Since the tornadoes can't kill the enemies, all they do is make it harder for your team to do the job. What's the point of CCing them if you can't actually kill them while they're being CC'd? Their bodies are spreading to the four corners of the earth, never to be seen from again. This makes defense missions a bitch to finish up in a timely fashion. This can be countered by playing in a room with a low ceiling, as the tornadoes can't fling the enemies away then, but then that means this ability works in the one place Zephyr, once again, isn't meant to be played in. Indoors. Tornado's augment is Funnel Clouds. That doubles the number of tornadoes at max level, while halving their size and removing the ability for them to pick up enemies. Funnel Clouds is just doubling down on the fail, removing the CC and forcing you to hope the clouds do enough damage to kill enemies. Spoiler alert, they don't. One of the few ways you can make this effective is to stack your tornadoes with viral damage, so at least they will knock out 50% of the enemy's max HP for 6 seconds, if it procs, while also lowering your power range to almost nothing, so the tornadoes spawn in a tight circle around you. This way you can maybe place them more consistently to maybe help support your team. But at the end of the day, is that really worth it when you can get a similar, and arguably more generally useful effect from Mag's unmodded ability Polarize? And that, my friends, is the key problem with Zephyr. Anything she can do, someone else can do better. Don't believe me? Fine. Let's walk through this, shall we? Do you want to do damage? Pick Ash. His fourth ability, Bladestorm, does 2,000 base damage. That is more than all of Zephyr's abilities combined. And it deals finisher damage, ignoring armor and shields. Do you want to do crowd control? Pick Banshee. Her fourth ability, Soundquake, can stun lock all non-flying enemies in 20 meters in all directions. If you mod her right, this ability can literally cover the entirety of some maps, and you can cast it for 3 minutes straight. Do you want to be immune to almost anything? Pick Limbo. Riftwalk will make you immune to anything, and you can toss in allies as well, and they don't have to hump you to be protected. But I want to protect the point too. Still choose Limbo. Lowers power range, and you can stick Cataclysm on the point, creating your own little circle of safety. And unlike Zephyr, this means you can still move about the map and do stuff instead of sitting on your egg like a dumb fucking bird. Want to support? Trinity. Just choose Trinity. Yeah? Do you want to specifically give people movement speed? Choose Volt. Want to do all these things at the same time? Still choose Volt. He can speed up the team, his lightning can jump and stun enemies for CC, his shields can protect him, on the go, his allies, and the point, which he doesn't once again have to babysit. And those shields allow him and his allies to also dish out considerable bonus damage when shot through. But I hear you say, forget all that useful stuff, I just want to fly. Look, I know there are still a few of you rolling your eyes and pointing at a frame like Hydroid and asking why I'm not placing him in last place, and that's because at least Hydroid at least delivers on an idea, a playstyle, a fantasy, if you will, that no other frame can. Being a majestic f***ing lake. No one else does that. So, you want to fly? Pick Titania. Her flight isn't restricted, it doesn't stop you from shooting guys, and unlike Zephyr, you get boosts to damage and dodge while using it. So, wouldn't you know, it's actually beneficial for you to be flying. This is why Zephyr is at the bottom of the barrel. Ignoring the fact that her abilities are underpowered in the current game, she can't do anything better than any other frame can, and she can't even provide an interesting and unique playstyle to players. She's in need of a massive rework, but at this point, I'm not sure what D can do. You can buff her stats, but because of Titania, there isn't a unique spot for her anymore. And that sad truth is why Zephyr is the worst frame in Warframe. Which sadly means she is almost like some sort of knockoff Warframe at this point that would be better suited in some crappy Warframe copy than the actual game. Huh, would you look at that?